In Raleigh, it's Nick Petro with your Monday morning weekly briefing for Central North Carolina. This is our routine Monday briefing, but the weather's probably not exactly routine, I would say. So anyway, yeah, we've got a lot of busy weather today. The forecast covers a period the 7th through the 13th of August. And thanks to everyone for joining us, those who are watching live on our webinar, and those who watch after the fact, after we post this to our social media channels. So. All right, where should we begin? There's a lot going on here. And I think the first thing I'm going to do is show you probably the most immediate concern, which is the heat. We've got a heat advisory up today, and generally, well, here's the deal with the heat advisory. We issue a heat advisory when we expect the heat index to reach 105. That's our trigger, 105. Now, keep in mind that, heat index values below 105 could still result in, heat stress issues and so forth. So, the way I see it is, this time of summer, this time of the year when we frequently have temperatures in the 90s, whether we hit the advisory or not, we still need to be extra cautious as it comes to heat. Drink lots of water, especially if you're an outside worker or doing outdoor activities, particularly during the heat of the day, which is basically from about midday through about 5, 6 o'clock, 7 o'clock on some days. We need to be especially careful. But we set the threshold for the heat index or the heat advisory at 105 because things really, the impacts to your body really rapidly increase once you start to see those values getting much above 100. So anyway, wanted to point that out, that the heat index values reaching reaching that 105 or higher is most likely along and east of I-95 today. We extended it a little bit further west, but we may not actually hit that much west of I-95 thanks to some clouds, and I'll show you that in a minute. But regardless, whether you hit 105 or whether you hit 100, or even if it's in the upper 90s for heat index, you still need to take the same precautions. So I just want to recommend that to everyone. The other hazard today is a potential for severe thunderstorms. Interestingly, the Storm Prediction Center has us in a level 3 out of 5, which is an enhanced risk. And an enhanced risk means numerous severe thunderstorms possible that may be even more widespread or persistent or maybe even more intense. So the higher you go up that scale, and the scale I'm referring to is in the upper right of this slide, the higher you go up that slide, the greater the coverage, if you will, the more widespread they become, and the more impactful with stronger winds or larger hail or more substantial tornadoes. So that's the situation. When you go much west of the Triad, once you go west of Winston-Salem, they're in a level 4 out of 5, which is really you don't get that too often. So if you're traveling north of Central North Carolina, or you're traveling towards the mountains, things are really expected to be really somewhat intense with the severe thunderstorm risk. For us here in Central North Carolina, the Triad might see storms moving in around 3, 4 o'clock. Wadesboro, our southwest counties, east of Charlotte, we'll probably see it also around 3 to 4. Once you get towards the Triangle region, down towards Sanford and Rockingham, you're looking at maybe 5, 6 o'clock. I-95 maybe closer to 7 or 8. And then, the coastal plain, Rocky Mount, down toward Clinton, maybe a little bit later than that, maybe in the mid-evening. All right, so our biggest concerns will be damaging wind gusts. This looks mostly like a straight line bow echo appearance on radar, wind damage type. And enhanced usually kind of conveys, instead of just, the 50, 60 mile per hour winds that blow a few trees down, maybe we're looking at wind gusts of 65, 70, that could do more substantial damage. So that's basically also why enhanced was put out there. So, however, and before I get too far, let me just show this real quick. This is live radar again, as 11:35 a.m. So just for folks who might be watching after the fact, this is 11:35 live radar. So there's nothing showing up right now across central North Carolina. If we look at the big picture, there's a couple things going on here that really we're going to have to just kind of watch it and wait and see how this plays out. Number one, I've got radar on here, and you can see as you head back towards eastern Kentucky, eastern Tennessee, southwest of Nashville, and up north towards Cincinnati. You can see and over toward the Ohio Valley. You can see there's scattered storms around. Okay, as I zoom further out and overlay warnings, you could see these warnings right here. These are all, I believe these are severe thunderstorm warnings. Let me click on them and see. So yeah, when I click on them, yeah, those are severe thunderstorm warnings. Yeah, the tornadoes would be purple on this image, which there are none. Okay, so you can see things are starting to line up here from the Ohio Valley down toward eastern Tennessee, eastern and central Tennessee, and points southwest. For us, you see there's obviously nothing on radar right now. We got a long ways to go. You know, this line of storms has to cross the mountains. But look at the temperatures and look at the clouds and look out your window. If you're in Raleigh, if you're in Greensboro, if you're in maybe Troy, if you're in Carthage, look out your window and you'll see some thick clouds. And that's what's been keeping the temperatures held back. 78 at Raleigh, 75 at Greensboro. You know, and as I put heat index on there, you'll see we're not even registering heat indices from Raleigh to Greensboro, and thanks to the clouds. As you go east of 95, that's where we get into the heat and the heat advisory conditions. You know, you see a 102 there, heat index by Greenville. You know, and so once you get east of 95, well, there's two things. Number one, that's going to be the hottest location. So our heat advisory that I showed you earlier, featuring you know, the eastern part of central North Carolina, looks to be on target. But that's also where the better fuel. Remember, when it comes to building thunderstorms, you need fuel, you need heat, and you need humidity. Okay. And one thing for sure is I loop this, and you can see these clouds are, for whatever reason, they're taking just a long time to break up, thin out, dissipate, move northeast of here, you know, but gradually they are. You could see it kind of thinning around the edges, and eventually these clouds will get out of here. But the question is when and to what extent that could have on the fuel for thunderstorms that eventually move into central North Carolina. You know, I wouldn't be surprised if, say, by mid to late afternoon, those clouds quickly go away. And it doesn't take long for the temperature to climb 10 degrees when you suddenly remove clouds and implement full sunshine. So while the temperatures are held back, and let me put ambient temperatures here, while you're only looking at 75 right now in Greensboro, as soon as those clouds go away, boom, you're going to be up to 85, 86, 87. So it won't take long. So the longer those clouds hang on, the better. But you know, for locations along and east of I-95, clearly the warmth is there, the heat's there. So that would, you know, pretend that the severe risk would be, you know, really locked in there in terms of providing fuel for the thunderstorms to develop. But anyway, there's lots of wind in the upper parts of the atmosphere. So even if the temperatures maybe only get into the lower 80s or mid 80s, but by the time the storms get here, there's still plenty of wind in the atmosphere to overcome the lack of temperatures being in the 90s for the heat. So I think one way or another, we're going to see some, you know, pockets of damaging winds once these storms that you see taking shape over the Ohio and Tennessee Valley move into our area. Okay, I think, you know, regardless, but I think certainly the longer these clouds hang on, that will limit the fuel to make it even worse. The other thing I want to point out is when you have a quick transition, look at that, 76 in Sanford, 86 in Smithfield. That sets up a dangerous zone in and of itself. When you have a quick transition, that creates what we call a localized boundary or a differential heating boundary. And you know, anytime there's boundaries around, we have to watch for, you know, new storm development, sometimes low level rotation. So there's, you see what I'm saying here is there's a lot of complicating factors to today's severe threat. Some factors go against the storms, some factors go for the storms and increase the risk. So my confidence is not particularly high for the triad area and how bad it could be because of this cloud cover. But again, as soon as the clouds go, the temperatures are going to climb in these areas a quick 10 degrees. And what comes across the mountains from the storm to the west will have so much energy with them already. I think there's still going to be a fair coverage of pockets of wind damage. Okay, so yeah, so a complicated situation here, all thanks to this patch of clouds they're taking their good old time to move through. All right, so anyway, that said, here is our best estimate for the timing of storms. And again, we're going to be tracking those storms as they move across the Tennessee, Ohio Valley, the mountains, and eventually come east of the mountains and move into our area. So we think our triad area, Winston-Salem, Greensboro, Lexington, Thomasville, and Poinsett, that general high point, we'll probably start to see storms maybe as early as 3, but more likely 4 to 5 be sort of under the gun, so to speak. And then, it's a southwest to northeast oriented band of storms, so it's going to, take its time moving east and then eventually getting to, Chapel Hill, Roxborough, Henderson down toward Wadesboro by 5 or 6 o'clock. These things tend to, I always seem to think that they move in a little bit faster than our forecast, so that's why I say 5 to 6 instead of just 6, right? I don't want to categorically say in the upper right it's going to be 6. It could be 5, it could be 6, but generally in that time frame, give or take an hour either way of the timestamps put on here. And then by early evening, pretty much moving across central North Carolina, the Triangle region, making it to I-95 by 8 o'clock. So, and then out of here before midnight. So by midnight, these storms are going to be gone. Things are going to be improving. But you can see kind of the nature of this as more of a straight squall line type setup, and that's what we expected all along. But we can never rule out isolated tornadoes, particularly where there's those boundaries that I spoke of earlier, which help to create low-level rotation. Those things we could only diagnose, fairly close to when they're actually going to happen. You know what I mean? In terms of saying which areas might have the best chance for tornadoes, may have to really kind of hone in until it gets a little closer to the squall line approaching. So anyway, just be ready by mid-afternoon, and be ready to have to deal with and shelter from severe storms that will basically affect all of central North Carolina from west to east from mid-afternoon through mid to late evening. Okay, so that's the takeaway there. All right, so since this is a weekly briefing, we're going to step back and take a look at the 50,000-foot view, so to speak, and the pattern. So today, heat advisory, particularly east of I-95. Severe storms are expected today, along and ahead of a cold front. Fortunately, we get into some drier weather Tuesday and Wednesday, and then we get back into a more classic summertime pattern Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, with widely scattered afternoon and evening showers and storms. So we'll see how that all plays out. But it looks like the best 2 days this week in terms of lack of precip are Tuesday and Wednesday. The worst days probably today due to the heat and the severe storms that are expected. And then later on, definitely be sure to join us this upcoming Thursday for our Thursday update to this briefing, as we touch a little bit more, get a little more detail on the Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday part of the forecast. All right, looking for the next 7 days or so for severe thunderstorm potential. Again, today is the main day, and again, calling out that red area, moderate, level 4 out of 5. That's pretty rare, particularly this time of year in the summertime. So that's again points north and west of Greensboro, Winston-Salem, where the worst of it's expected to be. But hey, a level 3 out of 5 is pretty high up there even for us. All right, so will any of this give us flash flooding today? Well, maybe. Depends on where the heaviest downpours are, if there's any training. Training, it's slow moving, and really, really intense downpours could lead to localized flash flooding. So again, best chance across the western half of central North Carolina. But really, any place that sees really heavy downpours over a short period of time could have localized flooding. Again, today's the rain day. Later on, Tuesday and Wednesday are dry. Thursday, Friday, into the weekend, more of a classical, scattered afternoon, evening shower and thunderstorm type of pattern. Nothing in the tropics right now that are of concern for us, thank goodness. 8 to 14-day outlook, courtesy of the Climate Prediction Center. This has kind of been the case all summer long. This appearance of this map, generally showing odds favoring above normal temperatures and tilting a little bit towards above normal precip. All right, so that wraps it up for today's briefing. And to summarize, again, severe storms you could pretty much bank on it. Again, there's a couple flies in the ointment, so to speak, and that is the clouds I mentioned earlier. We'll have to see how that impacts things as we get into the afternoon. But I think it's you pretty much take it to the bank. There's going to be quite a few severe storms. Main threat being wind damage today. Again, the greatest threats from 3 p.m. to 11 p.m. First in the Triad, and then later towards the coastal plain and I-95. Again, main threat damaging wind, although we can't rule out isolated tornadoes and some damaging hail and some localized flash flooding. Once we get rid of that, dry weather for Tuesday and Wednesday, and then back to widely scattered, mainly afternoon and evening showers and storms for the late week and weekend. And you could see that the temperatures, I'd be remiss if I didn't mention temperatures, but Tuesday and Wednesday, tomorrow and Wednesday will be dry, and temperatures will be pretty close to seasonal averages. So just wanted to point that out as well. 2 nice days, tomorrow and Wednesday. All right, that does it for our weekly briefing for this Monday, the 7th of August, 2023.